Medieval people did not believe suffering was random. Pain did not arrive by accident, and misfortune was never meaningless. When something went wrong, they did not ask how it happened. They asked why. And the answer, almost without exception, was that God was punishing them. In the Middle Ages, God was not distant, symbolic, or abstract. He was immediate, present, and constantly watching. He intervened directly in human lives. Every illness, every failure, every death carried intention. Nature itself was moral. Reality responded to sin. The world behaved as God commanded it to behave. Medieval people believed God punished individuals, families, villages, cities, and entire kingdoms. Punishment didn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it unfolded slowly. Lingering sickness, crops that failed year after year, wombs that would not conceive, fear that settled into daily life and never left. These were not misfortunes. They were correction. Disease was one of the clearest signs of divine punishment. Illness was not merely physical, it was evidence. A body breaking down meant the soul had offended God. Fever was a warning, pain was instruction. Plague was judgment. The more terrifying the disease, the greater the assumed sin. Recovery meant mercy. Death meant guilt. Leprosy inspired special terror, not only because it destroyed the body, but because it did so slowly and publicly. Medieval people believed God chose lepers deliberately. Their suffering marked them. It was believed to expose hidden corruption. Even when no sin could be named, guilt was assumed. God did not punish without reason. Sexual sin was believed to provoke God's anger more quickly than almost anything else. Lust, adultery, fornication, prostitution, and impure thoughts were believed to offend God deeply. Many believed infertility, miscarriage, stillbirth, and the death of children were punishments for sexual wrongdoing. Women were blamed relentlessly. Pain in childbirth was understood as a divine sentence repeated with every generation. Men were not exempt. Impotence, disease, barrenness, failure to produce heirs, these were read as spiritual rebukes. Sexual failure became evidence of divine displeasure. The body itself testified against the soul. Natural disasters were collective punishment made visible. Floods, droughts, earthquakes, fires, storms, none were seen as blind forces. They were God responding to human behavior. When rivers overflowed, people searched for sin. When rain failed, communities confessed publicly. Streets filled with penitence. Fasting weakened bodies. Self-punishment filled the air with blood and prayer. Famine was among the clearest signs of divine displeasure. Hunger corrected pride. If people starved, it meant God was restoring balance. Excess offended him. Full granaries suggested arrogance. Empty ones restored humility. Hunger was understood as instruction. War was punishment on a massive scale. Defeat meant God had withdrawn protection. Soldiers believed their deaths were deserved. Cities believed sieges came because of corruption, pride, or moral decay. Victory meant righteousness. Loss meant guilt. Battlefields were courtrooms where judgment was delivered in blood. Death itself was punishment. Sudden death was terrifying because it suggested God struck without warning. To die young meant divine displeasure. To die violently meant serious offense. Accidents did not exist. A falling beam, a collapsing roof, a thrown horse. These were moments when God intervened directly. The deaths of children were among the most unbearable punishments. Medieval people struggled to understand them, but they did not doubt God's involvement. Some believed children died to punish parents. Others believed God removed innocent souls from a corrupt world. Grief never stood alone. Guilt stood beside it. Mental illness was also punishment. Madness, despair, uncontrollable behavior, visions, terror. These were believed to result from God allowing demons into the mind. A broken mind meant a weakened soul. Loss of reason was not illness, it was exposure. Even the sky carried judgment. Thunder was not noise, it was warning. Lightning was not chance, it was God striking visibly. Storms destroying homes and churches were messages meant to frighten people back into obedience. Failure in daily life was never neutral. A business collapsing, tools breaking, animals dying, milk spoiling, these were signs. God was correcting laziness, dishonesty, pride, or ingratitude. Repeated misfortune meant repeated sin. Illness spreading through a household suggested shared guilt. Families searched themselves relentlessly. Who had sinned? Who had offended God? Punishment moved through bloodlines. Children suffered for parents. Wives suffered for husbands. Entire households paid together. The church reinforced these beliefs constantly. Sermons described God as just but severe. Love existed, but punishment proved authority. Fear maintained order. Fear explained suffering. Fear gave pain meaning. Self-punishment became common. People whipped themselves, fasted to weakness, walked barefoot on stone, wore hair shirts that tore the skin. Chosen pain was safer than waiting for worse. Suffering became language, spoken toward heaven. Joy itself was dangerous. Laughter, celebration, pleasure, all were suspect. Too much happiness suggested forgetfulness. Forgetting God invited punishment. Life was lived cautiously, joy restrained as carefully as sin. The Black Death intensified everything. When millions died, people searched desperately for reasons. Humanity must have become too sinful. Greed, lust, heresy, pride, something had provoked God. Entire groups were accused of drawing punishment upon the world. Punishment was not always immediate. Medieval people believed God waited. A sin committed years earlier could still be answered. Time did not erase guilt. It allowed it to grow heavier. Silence from God was also punishment. Prayers unanswered meant disapproval. God ignoring someone was terrifying. An angry God was frightening. A silent one was worse. Suffering in life was believed to reduce suffering after death. Pain endured on earth could shorten punishment in eternity. Misery became investment. Endurance became hope. Medieval people did not wonder whether God was punishing them. They assumed He was. The only question was, for what? Every pain became a clue. Every disaster became evidence. Every loss became instruction. God was not cruel in medieval belief. He was correcting. And correction was meant to hurt. To suffer without knowing why was terrifying. But to suffer knowing God was watching was worse, because it meant the punishment was deserved, and it might not be finished.